When it comes to entering in data within your worksheet here, it's really simple. All you have to do is go ahead and find a cell, click on it, and just start typing. Now for this exercise, I'm going to show you how to enter in data. Not just data, but I want to create a miniature-sized database because when it comes to organizing your data, it's really important, especially if you want to be able to use some of Excel's more advanced features later on that I'm going to show you in later training videos, like how to sort your data or filter in and out records within your database. So if I start typing here, that's fine. For example, if I want to keep track of my clients, I can say this is going to be where I put the first names, this column, last names, their addresses, and so on, as opposed to, well, first name is going to be in this column, last name will be down here, addresses will be up here, or that's where I'll start putting in the client's addresses. First of all, it's not organized. I mean, Bob's first name up here and his address is over here. Keep them tight and close together, that way you can use the advanced features later on. So to keep it simple, I'm going to come up here and click in cell A2. Now, why do I start all the way up in the left-hand corner as opposed to on row 50,000, column XFG? Because every time you open up the workbook, that's where it starts. I don't want to have to link or jump down to row 50,000. I'd rather just open it up and see it right here. And that's why I put my database, where I start with it up in the far left corner as I can. And we'll discuss a little bit more about this later on, but for right now, to keep it simple, let's go ahead and click on cell A2 and just start typing and entering in our data. This miniature database I'm going to be entering in is going to be about our sales and expenses and profits for the months of January, February, and March. So notice that when I start typing, this is going to be the label for my column here, which is going to be months, and then down below I'll enter in January, February, and March. Now notice when I'm finished typing, the cursor is flashing within the cell. So Excel still thinks I'm in edit mode here, or I have additional data to enter. What I need to do if I'm done is to go ahead and click off in another cell. Or I can go ahead and stay within that cell with the cursor flashing and hit the backspace key to delete what's behind the flashing cursor. Or if I hover over the cell, notice that I go from a white cross to, well, they call it an I-beam. It looks like the capital letter I. You can go ahead and move that and click in between your characters, or in this case our letters, between the M and the O, and then I can go ahead and hit the backspace key to delete what's behind the flashing cursor, or if I want to delete what's in front of it, hit the delete key and it deletes O. So I can go ahead and type in MO and click over here, add the S, and when I'm done, just like I said, go ahead and hit enter on the keyboard, click off in a blank area, use your arrow keys on the keyboard, whatever you want to choose to go to the next cell and continue on, or just get out of the edit mode for that cell. Now if I made a mistake and I need to go back and change the contents of that cell, I can do it one of three ways that I know of. One way is to click on the cell and just simply type over it, month, hit enter, or I can go back to the cell and double click really fast and then my cursor starts flashing in it, meaning that it's in edit mode. So I can go ahead and move my I-beam around, or go to the end and add the letter S and then hit enter. Or finally, I can go ahead and click on the cell and come up here in the formula bar. You'll notice that what you see in the formula bar is basically a mirror image of what you see in the cell. Now there are going to be times when we get more in depth into creating our databases or entering in data within a cell that you won't be able to see all the contents within the cell that you have selected, because the cells or the columns here are pretty small, right? I'll show you in a later training video how to open that up, but for now, if you've got a lot of data around you and you've got a lot of data within this cell and it gets cut off, just click on the cell and come up here in the formula bar and look at all this extra space here, that if there's any more data within the cell, it will display here. And of course you can expand that and get more, and if there's more than that, you can use the scroll up and down buttons here. Let me go ahead and collapse that. In any case, in addition to being able to view what's in the cell here by looking up in the formula bar, you can come up here and make changes as well. You can go ahead and hit the backspace, move your I-beam around, make your deletions, add letter S. When you're done, you can hit enter. Of course, I don't know if you noticed this, but when you select that and you go back into the formula bar, the moment you click, you get these two little options here. It's kind of funny, I never use these, but you've got enter and you've got cancel. If you go ahead and you make some changes, instead of hitting enter on the keyboard, you can just hit enter, the check mark, and it accepts your changes. But it keeps you within the cell, and it doesn't go, if you hit the tab key, it would go to the next cell. If you hit enter, it would go to, well, in this case, it would go to the next row below that cell. But when you come up here and you make changes and you hit enter, it keeps you within that cell. So I'll go ahead and add the letter S, and then of course you can cancel the changes. So I just typed in S. If I click cancel, it keeps the original content of the cell, okay? In which case I'm going to go ahead and type in S and Go ahead and hit enter, and it keeps me within that cell but not in edit mode because the cursor's not flashing in it any longer. Then I can come over here, click in the next column, and I'm going to go ahead and continue typing in my data or setting up the labels for my columns. This is going to be the column for my months, January, February, March. This will be for sales for those months. Hit the tab key. Expenses, hit the tab key, and then profits. Now notice that I started here typing sales, and I hit the tab key to go to the next column, hit the tab key to go to the next column, and Excel is going to pick up on that pattern of me using the tab key. So when I get to the end of typing in everything within this row and I hit enter, it's going to take me back to where I started using that pattern of the tab keys. In other words, I go to the next row below, but it takes me back to the first column where I started the pattern. Remember when I first typed in months, how I clicked off in a blank area? I broke the pattern, as opposed to starting in column B, starting there, typing in and hitting the tab key. When I hit the tab key and I type in, hit the tab key, it sees the pattern. When I hit enter, as far as helping me out, entering in more records, it'll take me to the next row below in the same column where I started using the tab key. For example, if I come down here and click in a cell, and I type in high, hit the tab key, type in buy, I hit enter, it takes me back to the beginning of where I started, as opposed to high, click over here and type in buy, tab, smile, enter. That's where I started the pattern with buy when I started using the tab key. In any case, to get rid of this, I can come up here and hit undo up on the quick access toolbar to undo the data that I entered in, or I can go ahead and select the cell and hit the delete key, or as we learned in an earlier training video, I can go ahead and using the white cross, click and drag and select the range of cells. That includes these that I want to get rid of, and then hit the delete key on the keyboard and it deletes everything within this range that I have selected. I can click off to deselect it. Finishing off with my database now, I'm going to come down here, and for my months, I need to type in my months of January, enter. Then I'm going to hit enter a couple of times and get my totals, because what I want to do is for the months of January, February, and March for sales, I want to get my totals and then total expenses and total profits. So what were the sales for January and my expenses? Let me come up here and start typing it in. I'm going to go ahead and type in 115 and hit the tab key and then type in a number. Now, because I use the tab key, when I hit enter, again, it sees the pattern and it takes me to the next row below, but back to the first column where I started the pattern of using the tab key. Well, congratulations, you just created a mini database here. It's that simple. And later on, when it comes to using the more advanced features like the sorting or filtering, because I have everything grouped close together, my months, and not my months, well, January here, February there, I'm able to sort this column or use that feature where I can sort ascendingly as far as the months go in the year, January, February, March, or descending from March, February to January. In any case, you want to keep that in mind when you create your databases. So here it is on a small scale, and then keep that in mind and you'll be able to create larger scale databases that look as organized as this little simple tiny database. Of course, we could go ahead and do the calculations and get the total sales for these 3 months, add the totals down here for sales, expenses, and then over here I could add up the profits, which is the sales less the expenses. That would give me my profit for the month of January. Now be sure to save your work. Go ahead and come up here and click on the Save button. Now, if this is the first time that you're saving your workbook, it performs what's called the Save As, and I'll talk about that in the next training video. But for right now, it's going to ask us 2 questions. Where do you want to save your workbook? So over here in the navigation pane, we can click and navigate around to find the spot or folder that we want to save it on our computer. The second question is what do you want to save it as? Do you want to keep it as the generic Book 1 as you see up here in the title bar? So I'm going to go ahead and keep it and save it in my exercises folder. I mean, it already led me to it, but if it wasn't there, I could go to my desktop, find the folder there, and then double click on the folder to open it up, and then come down here and type in, and then just hit save, and there you go. You know you saved it. When the title changes up above from Book 1, the generic title, to, well, whatever name you gave it. And then to make sure that I have it saved, I'm going to come up here and close out of the program. Remember, I saved it in my exercises folder on my desktop. Double click to open up the exercises folder, and there it is, my quarterly sales. Double click to open it up, and, well, there we go.